Hello everyone. Let's discuss about XML schema now. XML schema, extensible markup language, and its schema. So what is this XML schema? You know about extensible markup language, which is a markup language which consists of certain syntax, and using this syntax alone we should try to create an XML file, and that is used to fetch the data. Okay, now for any XML document, an XML schema is formed. The schema is nothing but called as a structure of the file. So this XML schema determines the structure of the XML document, because XML document basically consists of various things, various elements, various attributes. Each of these attributes, each of this element must be known to the end user, to the developer, whoever is taking up the charge of writing an XML document. Okay, so basically, in order to understand all the elements, all the attributes in that, we are going through an XML schema. This is a structure used to define each and every element or attribute of the entire XML file. Okay, so now XML schema, if you come to the definition, this is used to define the elements, attributes, and their data types. Okay, and basically XML schema is used to validate the structure and the entire content of XML data. This is nothing but validating the XML data is nothing but what type of an element is it, what type of an attribute is it. This all these definition of each of it, each of the element, each of the attribute is said to be the validation of that XML file. So this XML schema is basically used for that purpose. Okay, so coming to the schema, coming to XML schema particularly, this supports namespaces. When you say namespaces, this should be understood, or this should be validated by the W3C org. Okay, so this XML schema, if you wanted to remember it, you can remember the database schema, which defines the structure which is used to store the data in the database. Similarly, XML schema is also used to define the structure of the XML file and its elements. Okay, so XML schema describes the structure of an XML document just like a document type definition. Okay, and an XML document with correct syntax is said to be a well formed, because any XML document, whichever we write, we should write with a correct syntax. Like if there is an open tag, similarly there should be a closed tag. You should not end up the file without closing the tag, and the tree structure for the XML file must be maintained. So this is all taken care in the XML document. So this is each XML document is always validated against this XML schema to determine whether it is well formed and valid or not. Okay, first of all, if you know why we should use an XML schema, because our XML files can carry description of their own format, because in XML schema we can create the tags of our own on our own. It's not like HTML. We can create our own tags, but the problem is, it's not the problem, but the rule is the tags whichever are created by the user, whichever are opened, they must be closed. They must form a tree structure. When you open the last tag must be closed first, and then the previous one, and then the previous one. This is how the schema works, or this is how the XML file works. So when you say an XML schema will validate the entire document, XML document, in these different syntactical rules. Okay, that is what is an XML schema. Using XML schema, you can verify the data. Okay, you can verify the data. So in order to use XML syntax, it will have an XML editor to edit your schema files. It will have an XML parser to parse your schema files. Okay, so as soon as you have an XML document, that is converted into an XML schema, and all that is used by using these editors, parsers, all these things. Okay, if we can look at one of the XML schema language structure here, this particular thing is called as XML schema definition. This particular thing is called as an XML schema definition. A small example here. This determines a XML namespace. That namespace is determined by http www.w3.org XML schema. This is the year. And see, instead of writing the code here, we have described about something like access determines the XML schema, and element name, what is the name of the element which we have written in our document, what are various complex types, what are various simple types. All these things are described in an XML schema definition file. So this particular structure of XML schema definition file is called as an XSD. So you call this as a .xsd file. So this can be called, according to this program, this can be called as note.xsd. That means for an XML file called note.xml, for that file you have an XSD that is called as note.xsd. That means for the XML file note, you have created an XML schema definition. That is further saved as .xsd notation. Okay, so what happens here is you will be having various complex types, you will be having various simple types. Okay, see, if you can look at the note element here, that is said to be a complex type. This is an element, this is said to be a complex type. And this element, why is it called complex? Because it is consisting of various other elements like to, from, heading, body, etc. Okay, because each element, when it consists of various other elements, then this particular element is said to be a complex element, which is said to be a complex type, and the other elements within that complex element are said to be simple elements. Further, if this simple element, let us suppose 2 is a simple element as of now. Further, suppose even if this simple element consists of some other elements inside it, then this 2 will become a complex element, and the elements inside this particular 2 are said to be simple elements. Is this clear? This is how the XML schema definition is carried out, and this is how we try to frame the XML schema definition for the obtained or had for the available XML file. Okay, so XML schema, basically when we said that this is used to describe about various elements and attributes. Besides, this also describes about the data types used for all those elements. Okay, so when you are describing the data types, you will be describing like this: XML schema colon XS colon string, decimal, integer, boolean, date, and time. These are various data types which are used within the XML schema definition. Okay, for suppose if it is string, that means all the elements, I mean all the data type of the element of that particular element is of type string. If it is boolean, that means it is carrying either a true or a false value. That means it carries either a true or false values. That is what is called as the data type. So even in the XML schema definition, besides defining various elements, besides defining various attributes, you'll be defining even the data types. Only after defining the data types, the entire structure of the XML file will be understood clearly. Besides these data types, there are various other things, various other attributes which can be explained are optional and required attributes. That means there can be certain elements which are optional. You need not specify particularly with them. There can be certain elements which are required. When you say it's a required attribute, that means some value must and should be given to that particular attribute. If it is an optional, you need not give. For example, let us suppose using this XML file, we are creating one web page, one page, where one form otherwise. In that form, let us suppose there is an option called as second mobile number. Okay, if I say second mobile number, I can consider it as an optional number, right? Because many of us may have, may not have. second mobile number. In that case, unless if I consider it as required attribute, unless it is specified something, it will not move forward. So in order to prevent such difficulties, what I do is I will write the definition of that particular attribute as optional. When that is the case, if you have second mobile number, you will write it. If you don't have, you will not write it. That is what happens with the optional and required attributes. So you will be specifying what are various optional attributes and what are various required attributes while writing the XML file. Okay, so this is how. So we have seen that in XML schema, you'll be describing about elements, you'll be describing about attributes, you'll be describing about data types, as well you'll describe about the optional and required attributes too. Okay, so let us go for an example, then you'll clearly understand what is actually XML file and what actually is XML schema. Then you'll clearly understand what are all these complex elements or complex types, simple types, optional, required attributes, data types, and all. Okay. See, let us suppose any XML file, if you could remember, that will be started using question mark XML version and encoding, so that you'll be using this. Why? Because only if you use this, we can make our XML file platform independent, so that it can be accessible anywhere irrespective of the platform. Okay, so now this is the case. Let us come to the program now. There is some XML document here. The document consists of ship order. It is telling about ship order whose order ID is something. And always, as you know, XML supports namespaces. You are using this XML namespace and this thing. Yes, this is must and should to be used in the file, in the XML file, whenever you write an XML file. Yes, fine. And in that you have, in that order ID, in ship order ID, you have order person is one element with some name you open. See, in XML file, I think you remember, XML file consists of our own tags. That is why you are not having any HTML head, body, all these things. Rather, you are directly using your own tags. Like order person is one tag. We are giving the person name and we are closing the order person. Okay, and ship to is another tag which consists of various name, address, city, and country. And ship to is closed. Name is an user defined tag. I gave the name, close the name tag. Address, gave the address, close the name tag. City, gave the city, close the name tag. Country, gave the country, close the country tag. Is that clear? And all these elements are within ship to. That means I ordered, the criteria of this particular example is I am ordering something through ship. Okay, and I am giving my address to where it has to be shipped. I am giving the item to be shipped. Okay, I am giving certain title for it. How many items should be given, I am providing even that. And what should be the price, even that I am describing. Is that clear? This is all is what is happening inside this particular file. Okay, so I am ordering something through ship. So that is why it is a ship order. Okay, my order ID is this one. I am the person by name John Smith, order person. I wanted my order to be shipped to a particular area. The item of the product which has to be shipped is this particular product, which consists of title and its note, because I wanted to specify something more. So note, how many number of items, that means how many number of products, and what could be the price of each product. That is what I wanted to mention. This all comes under item element. Okay, item element, shipped to certain address with an item element. So item is closed. Okay, coming to, I wanted to give some title. I gave some title, how many quantities, another item. This is another item. I opened, I closed another item. This is also one quantity, and whose price is this one. I would like to describe even the price, and I closed the price item. Okay, so what happened now?
I being some order person, I wanted to order something. Here I mentioned that I'm ordering two products. One is Empire Burlesque is one product and Hide Your Heart is another product. Okay, I wanted to order these two things to certain area. To certain area, I specified the things, what are the characteristics of these particular items. I specified even those and I closed my order. Okay, this is the XML file which had. So what happens when you have an XML file? That XML file should be validated. How will it be validated? Only if it is converted into schema, it will get validated. So what we do is we have to create an XML schema. Earlier file was shiporder.xml. Yes or no? This we consider it as shiporder.xml. Now when I am trying to create an XML schema, I will write this particular schema. I'll give the name as shiporder.xst. XST stands for XML schema definition. That means now I am writing the XML schema definition in this particular file, that is shiporder.xst. For whom am I writing the XML schema definition? That is for the ship order. That is for the ship order. So what to do? What to do, how to do, that is what we should say. So whenever we start with an XML schema definition, the standard XML declaration will be followed by XS colon schema element that defines the entire schema. Okay. By looking at this statement alone, you can understand that the written code or written whatever it is, the written file there is XML schema definition, because you are writing XS colon schema, because you are writing XS colon schema. If you consider your XML file, you will nowhere find that XS colon schema there, because this is not an XSD file. Because this is not an XSD file, this is an XML file. Okay, but as you wanted to validate your XML file, you will have to convert or create some XSD file. So to determine that it is an XSD file, you will be saying colon XS colon schema, and many more things are, you'll have to start like this: XML version encoding. You know why this is, because to make it platform independent. XS schema, XS colon schema determines that it is an XML schema definition, and XML namespace. XML namespace. XML namespace. What is that namespace? Standard namespace, that is XML XS. XS. What is that XS? That is nothing but schema. What it consists of? That is consisting of some URL. That is consisting of some URL, which will have the standard value always. Okay. So whenever you write your XML schema, these lines of code are must. And as soon and here you will be writing your entire XSD for the corresponding XML, and then you will close slash XS comma colon schema. You'll have to close this. This is compulsory. This must be written for sure. Without this, your XSD will not be validated. Is that clear? So now we'll have to describe each element, each attribute, because we are describing the schema for this. So what do you do is, this element, now we have seen in XSD, we have seen certain things like, there are certain things like complex types, simple types, required, optional. So in XSD, whichever you are writing, you are not going to write the code of the same ship order. Rather, you will be describing each element among those, which of those is a complex type, which of those is an element, which of those is an attribute, which of those is a required attribute, which of those is an optional attribute, all these things. Okay, so what we do here, see, come on, let's go with this. We have, if you can remember, firstly it was XS ship order. So XS element name, what am I saying? This ship order is an element. Similarly, what type of an element it is? It is complex type of element. If you can look here, you see ship order is opened here and it is closed somewhere. Yes or no? It consists of many other things in between. Hence, without any doubt, we can say that ship order is an element ship order is consisting of many other elements. As such, as a result, ship order is said to be a complex type of element. So that is what we'll be discussing here. Okay, we'll be discussing how in the form of returns, how excess ship order. I want to describe about ship order. So I want to describe ship order, which is nothing but an element. Okay, you should start with excess an element. XML schema, I'm describing an element whose name is ship order. What type of name is ship order? That is of type complex type, and you'll be followed by the sequence and then close the complex type, close the element. We will see what will happen in between these three dots. We'll see what is going to happen here. Yes, this is what happens. Okay, what is happening there? You have, that is one element you described about ship order. Okay, the other thing, the other element there is order person. Order person is a single one which doesn't consist of many other things. It just got opened and then just got closed, and then just got closed. If you could remember here, order person, it just got closed. John Smith immediately got closed. So you'll be just describing this is an element. Okay, and you'll describe what could be the data type because it doesn't have any other elements more. So you'll just describe what could be the element inside. So this is what here. So you are describing about order person. Order person, the element name is an order person. Fine, what is this? This is an element. So it is not having any other element, so we can't describe it as a complex type. Okay, it is just a simple type element. As a result, I'm directly going for describing the data type. It is carrying string type of data. Okay, similarly the other element is ship2. Ship2 is another element. What and all are consisted in ship2? In ship2 we said that there is an address. Address consists of what? Name, address, city and country. Yes or no? So now I can surely say that ship2 is of type complex. Ship2, an element ship2 is complex type because it is consisting of many other things. So when it is complex type, it must be followed by a statement excess colon sequence, because in complex type element we should know what are all the other elements available, what are all the other simple elements, right? So in order to describe all the simple elements in this complex type, you'll start with the excess colon sequence. Okay, so what are all the other complex, simple elements in this particular complex type? Those are name, address, city and country. I am describing each of it. Name, it is opened, written the name, closed. Yes or no? Address, opened, written the address, closed. So how do I describe that? Just name, and immediately I can go for defining its data type. Finished. Data type, finished. City, a simple element, data type, finished. Country, data type, finished. So what is finished? The sequence of this particular complex type is finished. As such, complex type is closed. As such, excess element is closed. For which element? For ship2. Okay, fine. Coming to one thing. Yeah, I'll tell you one more thing. Here, again, one more element. From the given this thing, we have one more element. That is item. You have two items. Remember, that is item. And max occurs determines unbounded. That means you can order for any number of items. Order for any number of items. So that is why here in our XML file, we could order two items. We can go for two items. If I say it is minimum occurs one, then I could only order for one item. I can't go for more than one items. Here I am saying unbounded. That means I can go for any number of items. That is what it means. That is why in my program I used it as two items. Okay, and I'm saying it as two items. I'm describing about what an item is. What are all the attributes available in the item? I'm describing about only those. What are all the attributes? What are all the elements available in item? I'm not describing what is the actual attribute there. What is the actual value there? No. Hope you understand. So I say excess element, as usual, name is an item. Again, it is a complex type because it will consist of title, node, quantity, and price. Yes, fine. Max occurs is unbounded. Fine. Title, I am giving it as title, which is of type string. obviously. Note. What is consisted in note? Let's see once. You'll understand it. What is consisted in note? It is saying, it is giving some description about the note. It is saying or giving some description. So what I wanted to tell you here is, when you consider note, I am saying it as minimum occurs is 0. Okay, that means for one item I will provide once the note, because I can order for n number of items. For all the items I need not provide note. I need not provide note. But for one item alone I can provide note. Here it should be minimum occurs as 1. Minimum occurs as 1. Okay, so in that case I can provide it for one item. Minimum occurrence. That means whenever I wanted to give certain condition, I'll be using this max occurs, min occurs kind of things. Okay, similarly quantity, price. So we had one more item also. Yes or no? We had one more item. That item name is a title. This is something. Second item name is some. First item is empire. Second item is hide your heart. So this again, second item is a complex type, which again consists of certain simple types. So should we again write the schema definition for the second item also? Not obviously required, because you are describing what is what, but you are not describing each of the value in the XML schema definition. As a result, you'll be describing only once. Close the sequence, close the complex type, and then close the element. Okay. Attribute declaration. Till now we have declared what elements. Now there are certain attributes, right? Those attributes also must be declared. We have given. How do you determine an attribute? When something is determined by giving certain value, like order id is equal to 889, something is given, right? Then that order id is said to be an attribute. This is an attribute for whom? For ship order element. Okay, so when you are trying to give certain other information to an element, that is said to be an attribute, which is provided with a value. So order id is of type string, or you can use either use it as a integer, no issues. Okay, that is one thing. And the other thing here is use is one more characteristic provided here, which determines required. That means when I say, whenever I give order id, it must be provided with certain number that is required, that is compulsory. So to make something compulsion, I'll be using another characteristic for this attribute called use is equal to required. Is this clear? So final ship order dot access. We have seen various things now. Final ship order, how it looks is element name ship order. Those things which we have all discussed are all written here in a simple step. Element name is ship order, complex type. Okay, sequence, element name, order, person, their about their data types. Next element is ship to, which consists of name, address, city, country. That is done. And then next element is item, which we have given various characteristics using max occurs, min occurs. That is done. And then finally attributes, that are also done. Finally close the XSS schema, which you have opened here. You will be closing here. By this we can say that XML schema definition for the XML file is created. Only after this is created, our XML file will undergo parsing or editing or validation. Only these things will be performed only after the creation of this XSD file, only after the creation of this XML schema definition. That means we are just creating the syntax, like what is what should be given, what are other things. That is all we are creating here. This is one type of creating XSD. There are two more types of creating XSD, that is using namespaces, and the other one that we can see later. Hope you all understood, and I think everything is clear here. Fine, you can go through this notes. Everything is clear with respect to definitions, everything. Okay, thank you.